Welcome to round 4 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast for the week of October 4th. I'm Catherine Haleko, and I'm here with Terry Morrow.
Hello.
And Nicole Eridix.
Hello.
As moms of teens and young adults, we've survived those little kid days, yet we're still rethinking the decisions we made all through our kids' lives and worrying about what's going on right now. Today's Thursday, which means it's time to give into our obsessing. And today we're obsessing about family heritage and traditions. Just asking if you celebrate your own family's heritage, your kids, do you have any traditions related to heritage? I would say that when I was growing up, no. Both of my parents, we don't have like a real strong family, ancestry. Like we don't super identify as Irish or German or English or any of those bits and pieces that we are in my family of origin. And my husband grew up half Italian, half Slovak, and he was totally raised by the Italian side. So he, his grandmother spoke a little bit of Italian, and they ate tons of Italian food. And so they definitely did more with that, I think, than I did when I was a kid. And now with our own kids, my husband will make gnocchi, and my son really likes to make that with him.
That's cool.
Things like that, but not, I would say, food. It's probably about it. So, and I've talked about here on the podcast before about how when we moved here to Wisconsin, where there's a lot of German ancestry. And I have that in my family. And my mom lived in Wisconsin for a while and had German ancestors. But she never heard of, and I never heard of, the St. Nick tradition of putting out your shoe on the night before St. Nick comes and getting little presents in your shoe. But it's very much the kids expect it here. So you better do it. So for many years, that would find me in Walgreens at 10 p.m. on December 5th looking for candy and other treats to put in a shoe. So
that's funny. So that's a regional.
Those are the
regional.
I think so. I think that there's definitely other cultures that celebrate that St. Nick Day, or that they put out a stocking or a sock or a shoe or whatever. But it's definitely very common here, and it hasn't been anywhere else I've been.
Yeah, I've never heard of that. Interesting. So mostly just food then would be your... I think,
for the most part, it's food for sure. And they even had,
Italian food's good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the town where my husband grew up had a relationship with a town in Italy where a lot of people had come from originally. And in Gubbio in Italy, they had this whole big race of the saints where they, parade through the streets of the town with these saint statues and stuff. And they actually recreated it in his little town.
No way.
So that's pretty fun. And my kids have gone to that a couple times and enjoyed it. So yeah. I would say if you asked my kids, the only thing they can identify is Italian stuff. My blonde, blue-eyed Italian children. How about you, Nicole?
Yeah, my dad's side, not so much, because he was a mix of, English and German and Russian. And even American, actually. There wasn't a lot going on there. My grandmother had a few British traditions, which revolved around food. She'd make the Yorkshire pudding and various dishes that she was well known for. Her scones. But then my mom's side, she definitely kind of immersed us more into her heritage. She's Australian. So we grew up, very familiar with Australian celebrations, and she had her, also food related, she had her certain foods that she liked to cook on holidays, and if we were going to have a family dinner, it would always be lamb roast. I eat a lot of lamb there. Sad enough as that sounds. And what else? Just, especially around my wedding, actually, there was a lot of stuff incorporated into that kind of was, I don't know, to Canadian it was pretty cheesy, but to Australians it was, at least when my mom got married, it was traditional.
Right.
So yeah, we definitely had a lot to do with the Australian. We were more in touch with the Australian stuff, that's for sure. And that's kind of, I probably identified more as Australian too at that time. Right. Which it's kind of funny because it's such a young country. They don't really have and they're, it was developed by people from Europe, so their cultural identity isn't as strong as what, say, a German's would be, but there's still a lot of pride. And yeah, Vegemite. I grew up with Vegemite, and that is definitely part of Australian culture and heritage. Yes, and I love Vegemite, so there you go. But
she raised you right.
She sure did. Now, I can't get anybody else in my family to eat it, but I do. Surprisingly, I do not eat vegetables, but I'll eat Vegemite.
Right.
Which is so odd. But yeah. And yeah, my husband's Hungarian, so my kids get a mix of Australian, Hungarian. Like his family celebrates Christmas on Christmas Eve. So we do that in our family. We'll do like Christmas Eve and Christmas morning, so they get both. And so yeah, and then of course again the food thing is a big deal. And there's a lot of like kind of little myths and I don't know what you would call it, superstitions too, that kind of carry over. But yeah, my kid, I just tell them to ignore it. So yeah, kind of a mix of stuff in our house. That's for sure.
And what about like your kids being born in Canada, but spending a lot of their growing up in the U.S.? Like, did they?
Oh yeah, that's messed them up even more.
When they're doing this podcast in 30 years, they'll have a lot to say.
I know. Totally. Because now they identify as American too, right? So because they've got, especially my daughter who's now going to school back in Canada.
Right.
Everybody refers to her as being American, but she's
like, hey, I was
Canadian. So yeah, she's pretty. She has some cultural identity crisis going on.
How about you, Terry? You're Italian by marriage, also, like me.
Yeah, I think we're pretty generic. I feel like growing up I was, and now we really don't focus on that. I feel like when I was growing up, I think California, at least at that time, in like the 50s and 60s, is a place where you sort of went to be a different person. So to leave your culture behind in the East and come out and be somebody new. I didn't feel like either of my dad was German and Welsh, and my mom, her family was Jewish. And when we went to visit my grandparents in Chicago every other year, I got the matzo ball soup and the matzahs and lots of elements, non-religious elements of that heritage. But it was completely foreign to my real life. And we just were plain vanilla American pretty much during my growing up. Now, my husband, on the other hand, his family is solidly Sicilian, and so there's a lot of Italian smoke, all the traditions and, all of that going on, and a big extended family, all of whom observe these same traditions. And so he had I think, from what I hear, a super Italian upbringing of which he brought nothing to our family. It's just like, once he moved out of his parents' house, I mean, we would go back to his parents for various meals or whatever, but, and certainly since they've passed and other older relatives have passed, and we rarely see the extended family, that's just pretty much, we're just, again, kind of plain vanilla American. Ooh. Although in our case, there's a third heritage. Right. Since my kids are adopted. Right. They are neither Italian nor the mutt of my side, but Russian. Of what degree, we don't know. We know very little about their birth parents. So there could be all sorts of different things in there. And, when you adopt from a foreign country and people say, oh, please keep them aware of their heritage. And you go, oh, of course. I'll talk to them about it all the time. We did not talk about it. Part of it is that, they both had special needs and there were such immediate concerns. And also they remember absolutely nothing of their life before they were here, which makes me sad. But it also means that I could talk till I'm blue in the face about Russia and Russian heritage and all this. And they're like, okay, fine. Can I watch my TV show? They're just not interested in it. Right. So there may be a time when they will be. We do have some little, dolls, and there's a tea set that the orphanage director gave us. And so we have those things on display, and we talk to them openly about where they're from and stuff, but they're just, their concerns are somewhat limited by their particular disabilities. And I don't know, probably I should have done more.
Well,
but
you had
it was unclear exactly how that would happen. So I did try a few times. There was those 7-Up movies that a British director did where he went back every 7 years and was filming these children. They did a version of that in Russia. And I got that video and I would play it for my daughter, but she was, why do I care about this?
Right.
But this is your home. This is your heritage. Like, oh, fine. Is Barney on? You do what you can do, but you don't want to force it down someone's throat. So there may come a time in both their lives when they will be interested. That time has not yet come. So we just go on being mostly heritage free, all of us. And it feels just fine.
Creating your own.
That's right. Later on, when my grandkids ask about our heritage, we'll go, I don't know.
New Jersey.
That's right. Well, New Jersey, that was like a culture shock to me, because when I came out here from sort of heritage-free California to New Jersey, to a hotbed of Italian families, it's like everybody, largely most of the people that I got to know originally anyway were Italian. Right. And, serious about it. So, like, I'm nothing. I'm just me.
Isn't that also American too, though? Is to be
I think so.
Of different...
Yes.
Well, no, I guess... Yeah. Well, originally they would come from certain countries in Europe, but over time, isn't that kind of the American culture?
I mean, that's what my
heritage
background is.
Right.
It's so little of any one thing that is just American.
Yeah. Yeah. People who came here from other countries came here to be American. Probably Americans have less of a heritage thing going on. But at least in my experience, Californians even more so.
Yeah.
Because my mom certainly fled her heritage to go to California.
Really?
So, yeah, I think so. I mean,
did she come to California on her own?
Yeah. She might have been married.
Okay.
To her first husband.
Oh,
not my
so
dad.
she had a first husband. Okay.
She did.
Terry, that makes me want to dig into your family history even more.
There's a few skeletons in that there closet. I'm going to keep it closed. Well, on that note, that's it for today's round 4. Tune in tomorrow when we'll share our roundabout of things we've been using or enjoying lately that we think deserve a shout out. Find all our episodes at parentingroundabout.com and talk back in the comments there on our Facebook page or on Twitter, where you'll find us at Roundabout Chat.